Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Smith, do you commit to follow the law?
I'm sorry, the question?
Do you commit to follow the law?
Yes, sir. Of course.
Do you commit to follow court orders?
Of course.
Are you a man that keeps your word?
Am I what, sir?
A man that keeps your word?
I believe so, sir.
I appreciate that,
I wouldn't
sir.
be here if I wasn't.
I appreciate that. I grew up on a small farm myself. I think there's a lot that you learn growing up in a small community. My colleagues get sick and tired of me talking about how my father would leave my rubber boots and my shovel outside the door when I'd come home to visit, and that meant it was time to clean the barns. Now, people that giggle at this are the ones that have done it, because you know it's not the top layer that builds character, it's the second layer that gets really ripe.
Yes. I've wielded that shovel many times.
I wish more of us did it, sir. Now, with that being said, Mr. Smith, you know, there's a difference of opinion, I think, with my colleagues and I on different sides of the aisle right now and all that's going on with the president. The reason I asked about the court orders, as you know, on the end of last week, the courts had to say that the president had to roll out the SNAP funding because the president said he didn't want to do it. I mean, heck, even Monday, after he said he would, he said he wouldn't. And then his staff then correctly said, no, we're going to roll it out. But there's still a question about it. Now, the reason I bring that up, even though that's not your responsibility, sir, is one of the programs the Trump administration canceled was a program to support local farmers and ranchers with food banks. It was called the Local Food Purchase Assistance Cooperative Agreement and the Local Food for School Cooperative Agreement, about $1 billion. But as you know, these agreements get entered into with local farmers and ranchers, and then they change how they're going to grow for the next year, what they're going to raise for the next year. They don't look for other customers because they know that they have one, and it got cut. I certainly hope that when you're at the table, Mr. Smith, that you stand up for the farmers and ranchers where we grew up, where you grew up, and just make sure that programs that help them, that we find a way to do it. Now, if there needs to be changes or adjustment based on leanings one way to the other, I'm fine with that. My Republican colleagues are in the majority, they're in charge. I get that. The program swings that way. But in the end, farmers and ranchers shouldn't get hurt arbitrarily because someone just had a whim about something. So I hope that's something we can agree on. One of the questions that I also have is, you know, in the healthcare space, I appreciate these questions being asked. One of the concerns that I have is in these rural health clinics, I don't know, 15 to 35% of the revenue comes from Medicaid beneficiaries. And earlier this year, my Republican colleagues passed a piece of legislation the president signed into law that, I don't know, takes almost $1 trillion out of the program. That doesn't just hurt people, that's going to close rural clinics. 3 years ago, I survived a stroke. Now, I always joke, this is what a stroke survivor looks like. If you have access to health care, if you get good doctors, if you have faith, you have good family, people that help you understand you have to have a positive way of getting better. I'm very concerned with the way that things have been going with OMB and Mr. Vote, that a lot of these grants and things, they've just been getting stalled. And again, you know, not necessarily a question, sir. I just hope that's another area when at the table, because you'll be in the room, you'll be at the table with the secretary and everyone else, that we say, hey, we got to find a way to keep these rural clinics open so that when a farmer or someone gets cut by an implement or they're pulling out the bandsaw, man, and something happens and you've got to get in quick to be able to reconnect, that we get that done. So I hope that we can find some time there. Now, the last minute, I want to talk about electricity prices. Okay. You're aware what rural electric co-ops are, Mr. Smith? You're aware what GNTs are, the generation and transmission components are?
Yes.
So for everyone that doesn't, the GNTs are the entities that actually generate the power and they move the transmission to the smaller electric co-ops, and those are the ones that are called the distribution co-ops. Yes. Sorry for talking about it. I served on the Public Utility Commission before I came here, and I grew up as a member of a co-op. That's where my electricity comes from today. Yeah. One of the questions that was asked earlier, I think by Senator Klobuchar, she asked about some of these grants that were canceled to our GNTs across the country. There's one that was canceled to a GNT that matters to us in New Mexico that resides in Colorado called Tri-State. What are your thoughts about the cancellation of these contracts that supported generation at these electric co-ops, which would arguably lower power for rural families that benefit from being a member of an electric co-op?
Well, Senator, obviously I'm not there, so I'm not familiar with that particular case.
Let me ask the question this way, Mr. Smith. Is that something that you'll commit to look into, and understanding that it's a Republican administration, they may have preferences over one generation or another, but
Yes.
if a local generation, G&T, which is made up of trustees from electric co-ops,
Yes.
it's not us, it's not partisan. As a matter of fact, these are real conservative folks for the most part.
Yeah.
That if they choose that they want to do some generation in a certain area, that's something I would hope that we would all respect as well. But is this something that you'll commit just to look into and see if there's a better way that we can go forward in looking at G&Ts across the country to support electric rural co-ops?
I think that's part of the job, Senator.
I appreciate that, sir. I appreciate it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all so much.
Senator Hogue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Smith, thanks for coming in.